heart-related issues. Suddenly, out of the blue, they drop down, taken to hospital, declared dead, heart attack. So what's causing this surge in heart attacks among India's youth? Before I bring in some doctors to break that down for you, let's tell you about what really has happened in Hassan that's actually prompted the government also to step in here and order an inquiry.
The sudden demise of Shefali Jariwala at the young age of 42 has put the nation's spotlight on celebs and stars who otherwise seem to be in the peak of fitness, suddenly dropping dead due to cardiac arrests. However, if you thought that only the world of glitz and glam was susceptible to heart disease, think again. Almost 1,000 kilometers away from Mumbai, a health crisis may be silently unfolding in Karnataka's Hassan district, where 23 cardiovascular-related deaths have been recorded in the last 40 days alone. In fact, in a span of just 24 hours on the 30th of June, 4 people lost their lives to heart-related complications. Another fatality has been reported today, bringing renewed fears and heightened public alarm. What's especially troubling them is the age profile of those who have died. This is not just a crisis of the elderly. Younger and middle-aged individuals make up a substantial number of these deaths. 5 victims were aged between 19 and 25, 8 between 25 and 45, 4 were 45 to 58 years old. The remaining were aged above 60. Even though residents are deeply concerned, health experts say this trend points to something beyond routine age-related illness, possibly lifestyle, stress, or undiagnosed conditions going unchecked.
There has been a certain trend that we have seen overall, I will not say particular to Hassan, that younger people are, having heart problems, cancer issues, and, kidney problems, all these kind of diseases are coming at an earlier age. These are also connected, I think, in many ways to the kind of food habits that we have and the lifestyle that we are leading, stress and this digital addiction, mental stress, and basically leading a stressful life also. So these are also contributing.
The issue has turned political as well now, with Chief Minister Siddaramaiah hinting at complications caused by the COVID vaccine being a possible cause, thus laying the blame on the central government's vaccine policy. But for now, whether it's stress, lifestyle, post-COVID complications, or something more systemic, the sudden spike in heart-related deaths in Hassan has become a wake-up call, not just for the district, but for the state at large. Bureau Report, India Today.
So what's happened of late? One of the big questions is whether this has to do with the COVID vaccine. It's something the Karnataka Chief Minister Siddaramaiah has also referred to. While speaking, in fact, about what's happening in Hassan, he seems to have identified the issue as that being a side effect of the COVID vaccine. We spoke to India's leading cardiologist, chairman of Medanta, Dr. Naresh Trehan. Here are some excerpts of our conversation with him, where he kind of breaks down what's really happening here, what's with this trend of heart fatalities.
I'll tell you that we have observed very distinctly that people who got serious bouts of COVID actually had inflammation in their hearts. 20% of them showed their reduction in their pumping of the heart. They showed inflammation signs of the arteries around all across their body. And they are the ones who may have become victims of heart attacks because of the fact that this inflammation left their arteries of the heart damaged. Now, we do not have any documentation, and like you said, ICMR has actually addressed the issue to say that, look, there is no real evidence found so far, especially when the ones that were used from India, that were developed in India, that there has been any correlation between the incremental increase in heart attacks in those people. Yes, there were a few reports in the US and in Europe also, which said that the mRNA vaccine, which was the one that was developed in the West, that some people did get cardiomyopathies or irritable hearts from that. Yes, that has been reported, but it's never really documented that it happened in large numbers. Then by the age of 30, the first checkup should be done so that we know what the risk factors a person is carrying. Now, for instance, I'll give you an example. We did a study of 10,000 executives who came for their preventive checkup. And we found that a full 26% of them had high blood pressure, which they didn't even know about. So the fact is that if you know that you have high blood pressure, you know that your lipid profile being cholesterol and all its subfractions, that they are abnormal. If we know that the history of blood sugar is getting to be high by HbA1c that we check, then we can actually warn these people that these are the diseases that we know that they have a higher risk for. So like I said, if your risk of developing heart disease is double of what your next person is, then we can always warn them that they cannot indulge in eating rich food. They must exercise. They must also get preventive checkups in frequencies that we define for each individual. So that's why we say today, know your genes. If you know that in your family there is history of heart disease, you also know that in your family there is history of diabetes, then that person, the children of that family, should be checked before the age of 25 for the risk factors that are associated with heart disease and diabetes. And if we detect it early enough, and today genome sequencing is also completed, so we can actually see the genomic footprint of each individual. In other words, if we know all the facts about the biochemical, the physical, and the genetic makeup of an individual, we can write the horoscope of their health. So if we know in time that these pre-existing things are there already, then we can actually warn the people of what their lifestyle should be, what are the things that they have to be careful about, and the fact that they can mitigate the risk of heart disease and diabetes if they are careful.
So you heard there from Dr. Trehan. We found it important to also put out what exactly people should do in view of what's been happening right now, of the surge of heart fatalities, particularly among youngsters, what kind of precautions you can take. But let's focus on what's happened in Karnataka's Hassan. I'd like to bring in on this broadcast Dr. Mukesh Goel, Senior Consultant of the Cardiothoracic and Heart and Lung Transplant Surgery in Apollo Hospitals, Indraprasth. Thank you very much for your time, Dr. Goel. What we're seeing is very, very concerning. And I have no doubt that if you actually look at the data, the number of heart attacks among youngsters has risen in the last few years, not just in India, but across the world. But looking at this particular incident that's happened in Karnataka, in Hassan, what explains the fact that in 40 days in one particular location, Doctor, you have 22 deaths, all related to heart attacks?
So just before me, Dr. Trehan, he happens to be my teacher and my mentor. He has very deliberately explained what is ailing specifically in Indian population, because we are genetically more predisposed to heart disease and we have more hypertension in us. In one study, over age of 20, 1/3 of Indian population suffers from undiagnosed hypertension. And we are also the diabetic capital of the world. So these hypertension, diabetes, combined with stress, work stress, social stress, and increasing incidence of smoking and alcohol intake, they are leading to more and more heart disease, and especially compared to Western population 10 or 20 years earlier. But when we talk about this particular Hassan thing, and where suddenly a lot of young people have got affected, definitely we need to do more studies, whether it was some viral illness which is causing myocarditis, leading to inflammation of the heart muscle and causing some fatal arrhythmias and leading to sudden death, or it might be some non-viral factor like even some poisoning. It might be any kind of a poisoning. Their food stuff is getting source of their food, or what is happening from where they were getting food or some district water supply kind of a thing. So we need to definitely study in detail and find out what are the other factors other than those traditional factors we talk about of hypertension, high
Okay.
cholesterol, diabetes, or smoking.
So that's something that, of course, is pending inquiry right now. Dr. Goel, since our conversation with Dr. Trehan, we've had a reaction from Chief Minister Siddaramaiah, where he seems to be indicating that, this is a result of COVID vaccines, that there have been heart attacks that have been reported among youngsters across the world as a result. And that's what seems to have happened in his state, in Karnataka as well. Do you agree with that? Do you think that this could be a result of the COVID vaccine?
So Dr. Trehan has already cleared it out. And initially, when we were very actively vaccinating people, like in year 21 and 22, so then there was some concern, not only in India, but all over the world, that there was some incidence of like 8 in 1 million population, which can get myocarditis and heart ailment because of the vaccination. But it was then also not clear that it is because of the COVID or because of the vaccination. And anyhow, the vaccinating population was much, much more beneficial compared to not vaccinating. As we know that there was something like 60 to 90% reduction in death rate because of the vaccination. So, and that era is long gone. So after 22, there is no compulsory vaccination. And I don't think people are really getting vaccination regularly now. And moreover, vaccination happened all over India. So it was not limited to the district of Hassan or state of Karnataka. So, but same kind of a picture has not come out from other district or from other states. Mm-hmm. So I will not like to pinpoint that COVID vaccine can be a reason. I don't think so, actually.
Okay. Dr. Goel, I request you to stay with me, because even as, we focus on what we've been seeing of late and the fact that we've been seeing people who are considered or deemed to be fit having heart attacks at a young age. Let's also talk about the case of Shefali, who passed away just a few days ago. And let's get you a news break on what's really emerged in the investigation into her death. Mumbai police has given details to India Today about what they've picked up of Shefali's schedule, which is so important to really understand what led to her suffering a heart attack suddenly. Now, here's what the police have told us, that Shefali was fasting the entire day for some puja. At about 8:30 p.m., she finally consumed her first meal, which was stale fried rice, food that was kept from the previous day. She felt uneasy. She felt acidic right after consuming food. And so she went ahead and took pantoprazole as well as domperidone. This was self-medicated. Very often, of course, people tend to do that when you feel a bit of discomfort right after a meal, you go ahead and self-medicate thinking, look, it's acidity, we can go ahead and take care of it. But mind you, in Shefali's case, during the day while she was fasting, she had also received an anti-aging injection at home. This was from a medical professional. But then in the night, she went on to take those medicines as well. By 10:15 p.m., based on what the Mumbai police have said, the symptoms worsened. She felt a lot more uneasy. And then 15 minutes later, 10:30 in the night, Shefali collapsed and then started having shivers, started trembling. The house staff immediately alerted her husband, who rushed to her side. Her husband, Parag, felt her pulse and then rushed her to a hospital. Unfortunately, she was declared brought dead at the hospital. The police were notified at 11:30, and about 11:45, 15 minutes later, they reached the hospital. At this point, all the medication at Shefali's residence is also being looked into. We've been speaking a lot about glutathione injections. That's something that's been confirmed Shefali was in fact using. Vitamin C pills were found, various other drugs. Most of the medication that's been found at her residence weren't prescribed recently. It was essentially self-medication. According to the police, suspicion by doctors too, that it was sudden major drop in blood pressure that led to cardiac arrest. Dr. Goel, this is a big concern, that very often people self-medicate without knowing what combination really can turn into some sort of a deadly cocktail, can have side effects. And that seems to be the case prima facie right now with Shefali as well, that she had a multiple medications, in some cases also to kind of clear the uneasiness she felt after eating, perhaps without realizing that the two could have a deadly impact on her body.
So, first of all, I agree with you that we should avoid self-medication. So, I'm not aware about glutathione and vitamin C because both are considered generally harmless and over the counter. And regarding pantoprazole and domperidone, they are over the counter drugs, very, very safe. But I'm looking at the sequence which you have just narrated, and even Mumbai police has done. This looks like a classic case of acute heart attack. This is what happens in an acute heart attack. And if you don't pay attention to it, so in 2-3 hours, you are likely to have a fatal arrhythmia and die. And most of the time, the first time, especially in younger people, the heart attack can be confused with gas or acidity.
Yeah.
And the people, they tend to keep taking pantoprazole and they don't seek medical help. So what I just heard, it is a very classic tale how acute heart attack presents. So my take is, if you have some discomfort, whether it is in the tummy or whether it is in the chest, and if you think that it is a gas only acidity because you have been fasting or you have been exerting, and if you take any medicine like pantoprazole and domperidone like that, and if in 15-20 minutes you don't get relief, please rush to a medical center, call for help, because it can be very, very possible that it is a major heart attack which has started and it is going a heart attack which can turn fatal anytime.
I think that's very, very important advice that you have given us, Dr. Goel, because very often, you're right, people can't tell the difference between when, it's just uneasiness, acidity right after a meal versus actually something that could be fatal like cardiac arrest. And I think the fact that you've told us that, look, once you medicate and particularly take these very simple, tablets that you get over the counter, like what Shefali did in 15-20 minutes, if you don't see or feel a difference, immediately rush to a hospital, because in that case, it's not acidity. And I think that's very, very important advice that everyone should be heeding right now. Thank you very much, Dr. Goel, for your time, for joining us here on India Today. Unfortunate, really, what happened with Shefali Jariwala. But there are lessons for every single one of us. Every single youngster in their 20s, in their 30s who think that, look, we're perfectly fit, we're doing fine, there's no question of any sort of problem because we don't have any ailments. This is clearly the SOS that needs to go out, that we're ignoring clear health signs. Regular checkups is the way to ensure that you nip it in the bud and don't have any sort of health emergency that comes up. All right, let's move on to some other stories also here on NewsTrack. From today, the Delhi government has launched its biggest campaign to combat air pollution by cracking down on old vehicles on roads. Diesel vehicles older than 10 years, petrol vehicles older than 15 years, no longer allowed to refuel. The idea of the Delhi government is to ensure that these old vehicles are off the roads. But there are so many questions being asked here, many deeming it a lazy policy, saying, does this really tackle pollution? Others questioning how you can put every single vehicle, different brands which work differently at different ages, under one bracket. Details in our report, along with voices of what Delhiites have to say about this move.
If you live in Delhi and have a petrol car older than 15 years, you won't get fuel from today onwards. Well, if you have a diesel car older than 10 years, you might as well discard it. No fuel for you too. This ban targets all end-of-life vehicles, diesel vehicles older than 10 and petrol vehicles older than 15 years, which not just includes private vehicles but trucks, government vehicles and even ambulances. This is a directive from the Commission for Air Quality Management, or CAQM, the central agency tasked with monitoring air pollution in Delhi NCR. It follows a 2018 Supreme Court ruling that banned the use of such vehicles in Delhi city.
This direction is actually going to really accelerate the work around that. And this is coupled with the system that has been put in place by the Delhi government at all the fuel stations, which will allow the identification of end-of-life vehicles and the consequent impoundment and scrapping of those vehicles. That will help us to overall clean the air in Delhi and get rid of the end-of-life vehicle.
The impact is massive. Over 6.2 million vehicles in Delhi are now under scrutiny. 4.1 million of them are two-wheelers. And here's how your vehicle will be caught breaking the rule.
This notice that is there and the order comes from the CAQM looking at air quality and pollution that has been caused in the Delhi and the national capital. Of course, right now this law is only implemented in Delhi and will be expanded to the NCR regions later, but very crucial for those who are still keeping these old vehicles, because once they come here and are detected at petrol pumps, they will be directly sent in for scrapping. And the traffic police as well has been told to maintain vigilance at a lot of petrol stations to ensure strict implementation of this particular order.
The legal action includes challan or fine, vehicle impounding, and permanent disposal of the vehicle. At petrol stations, pleas were being heard made to extend the 15 years rule to 20 years.
बहुत कम टाइम है ये, कम से कम 20 साल का होना चाहिए पेट्रोल का, सीएनजी और पेट्रोल का, और उसका 15 का होना चाहिए, क्योंकि आदमी अपने पूरी कमाई इसमें लगा देता है. इतने बड़े आदमी तो है नहीं हम, मुश्किल से ये गाड़ी मैनेज किया है, इसको फिर कबाड़े में कैसे देंगे हम.
Some have welcomed the move as they believe it will help reduce pollution and traffic in Delhi.
अच्छा डिसीजन है, क्योंकि इससे इतना लोड है ट्रैफिक का. यही कुछ स्टेप्स होंगे जिसमें कुछ रिड्यूस आएगा, अदरवाइज तो लोग मानते गए. भैया प्रैक्टिकल लाइफ है, तो हर आदमी ये सोचता है कि चलाते रहो.
One of the vehicles impounded was a 15-year-old petrol guzzling Mercedes-Benz from Ashram petrol station in South Delhi. The vehicle ostensibly in a good condition. Experts weigh in on why looks actually can be deceiving.
There is a misconception about well maintenance also. Well maintenance is like you are trying to keep the vehicle with respect to its design and the way it functions well, right? But the vehicle is made in, say, year 2005. It is meeting an older emission norm, and you cannot change the vehicle to meet the BS6 emission norm. Even if you maintain it with the highest quality system.
Will this have a real impact on reduction in pollution? The refueling ban will not stop in Delhi. From the 1st of November, the restrictions will likely be extended to 5 National Capital Region districts, which is Gurugram, Faridabad, Ghaziabad, Noida, which is Gautam Budh Nagar, and Sonipat, areas with high vehicle density. Will this ban deliver cleaner air, or is enforcement going to be a real challenge? With inputs from Milind Sharma, Bureau Report, India Today.